We begin in the heart of Melbourne, where the coffee is good, the walls are art, and the people are unquestionably a bit indie. This just seems an appropriate place to park the new Mini Roadster. The sixth car in Mini's lineup, the Roadster says goodbye to the rear seats and hello to galaxies worth of headroom. And today we've got two questions for it. Firstly, is it any good? And secondly, historically speaking, is this still really a Mini? This car is bye-bye family lines. It's not the kind of thing Mr. Isigonis ever would have sketched. And to find out, we've got a pretty thorough day planned.
So what exactly is the new Roadster then? Simply put, it's a two-seater cabriolet. Mini have taken out the rear two seats, added a surprisingly large boot, and then sharpened the angle of the front windscreen. And the net result is meant to be a more stylish, performance-oriented sort of Mini. You get the impression with the Roadster that Mini's trying to break away from that category of pokey city cars. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Behind me here is a little chute for you to access the boot and access all your rear luggage, but they haven't called it a boot chute. No, they've called this a ski chute for putting your skis in. Now I don't know of a single city car that has a spot for your skis. So maybe then Mini instead is trying to build a car more road trip oriented and for the adventurer. Mind you, they still have built a pretty damn good little city car. It's the immediacy of the car that you just fall in love with, the darty nature of the steering and the incredibly flat suspension. The absolute best thing though, it crackles like a popcorn machine. Oh, well done, Mini. Probably the biggest surprise so far though is this automatic gearbox. Now, you should go for a manual if you're getting a Mini because it does add that extra level of intimacy with the car and you really do feel connected, man and machine. But for an automatic gearbox, it's surprisingly intuitive, it's quick and it's good fun. So roof up then for the freeway stint, see if this is an all-rounder or just a sporty little car. We've got the car in drive, it's in automatic, all sport modes are off. This is calm, docile mode for the Mini. But even still, it's as though the character of the car doesn't quite settle in to a longer sort of journey. It still feels maybe a tad neurotic. The steering is so immediate that you've always got to be paying attention. But particularly around 2000 RPM, cruising speed, 100 k's an hour, there's this buffeting you're getting from the exhaust. It's not doing anything stupid, it's not cracking or popping anymore, it's just at a tone that reverberates through the cabin. Credit where it's due as well, for a Roadster it's surprisingly airtight. There's little road noise, little wind noise, in fact no wind noise at all. They've done a bloody good job with putting this car together. It feels like a BMW. Well, it is a BMW. Before we head for the mountains though, we are due to make a little stop off. Now we're about 10-15 minutes late, but hopefully that's not a problem. But this should give us a good chance to see just how mini this Mini really is, to see whether it does align with its history. So this of course is the original Mini, the Cooper. And if there's ever been a better testimony to the wonders of Sir Alex Designs, it's this. Meet Trevor. He's 6'1", and not only does he drive this car every day, he and his entire family of 4 have driven it all the way around Australia, whilst towing a caravan. You are nuts.
No, I don't think so.
Now, it's pretty clear to anyone these cars are, from an engineering perspective, completely different to the new Minis. but do you think they still connect in any way? Do you think there's an alignment between the old and the new?
I think there's definitely an alignment between the old and the new. You'd be surprised at how many old classic Mini owners end up going out and buying new ones.
So what is it about the old car that's so intrinsic?
I don't know, I've never been able to put my finger on it. I suppose the thing that really comes to mind is how much joy it gives to people. People are always smiling around Minis. Whether they're in them or out of them, they seem to love them. I don't think you can really put a word to it, I suppose. Except maybe love. People love their Minis.
So what do you think it was about this original Mini that made it so popular?
Fuel economy. They were cheap and affordable.
You could say that about a Camry these days, couldn't you?
Yeah, but the Camry has no character. That's the unfortunate part about the Camry. There seems to be a million of them out there and they all look the same, especially the white ones. Not that I don't like Camry owners. I'm going to add that in, I must say, but every Mini has got its own character. And I think that's true of the new BMW Minis as well. You look around, they're not all the same.
It's quite a lot smaller than the new ones though, isn't it?
You think so?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, it is a little bit smaller. There's no room for an argument, that's for certain.
Maybe there is something intangible about the Mini. They've made a character here, they've personified metal, and even though the lines and the mechanics of these two cars are worlds apart, the bloodlines are irrefutably strong. This makes the Roadster quite a tricky car to review. If you were to be objective, you could pick a few holes with it, the ride comfort, the ostensible impracticality, but with a car so characterful and jovial, maybe being wholly objective is missing the point.
(1964), the second last day of the Monte Carlo rally. The Mini was 65 seconds behind, but so good was the handling of the little Mini and so large were the testicles of Paddy Hopkirk that by the end of the next day, they'd won the entire rally outright. And then they did it again in 1965, again in 1966, although they were disqualified for not being French, and then again in 1967. In just 10 years' time, the Mini had gone from being a pokey little well-designed city car to being an international racing icon. I'm going to put my neck on the line here and say that the S overall is a better car than their upgraded John Cooper Works. So why am I saying that? I'm going to use this whole go-kart-like handling analogy, which to be honest is quite overused. Yes, the Minis handle like go-karts. The John Cooper Works car, even more so. It's more rigid, it's flatter, it's quicker to respond, but a go-kart only really works on a go-kart track, something that's flat, smooth, and progressive. When you bring it out onto the real road that's, to be honest, extraordinarily bumpy today, the nose of the John Cooper Works car is so rigid and taut that it tends to skip over the bumps and it leaves you with this lightness in the steering and this disconcerting sense of understeer. It still will stick to the road, but it needs to be a little bit more supple and compliant to be more enjoyable to drive, really. The S, though, even though it still is a very firm car, I think it's got the balance just right. It's got usable performance, accessible handling on the road, but when you get out onto a road like this as well, it tends to handle, I think, a little bit better than the Works one. The automatic gearbox, again, huge credit to it. It's really blown me away. It's very responsive. The biggest issue I have, and to be honest, I'm surprised to be saying this, it's the steering. Mini does have the electric steering, which works wonderfully around the town, but when you get onto a bumpy road, it's just that little bit too light and that little bit too digitalized, I'll say. It does lack a little bit of feel through a bumpy corner. But the Mini is not about lap times. It's not about specifications. It's about the absolute joy of driving on a fantastic road. And with this Roadster, with the open air, it's an absolute pleasure to drive. Something very down to earth about the new Mini Roadster. In a world so full of torsional rigidity and Nürburgring lap times, this is one of the few performance-oriented cars that cares about nothing more than making you smile. And there is something intangible about the Minis. I've only been driving it for a week, but I wouldn't feel too much of a wanker if I gave this car a name. Earlier today, we asked whether or not Mini had stepped a little too far beyond their original drawings, or whether or not this car was more of a Mini than ever. And after talking with Trevor and after driving these two incredible cars, I must say, even though the engineering is 50 years on, the character is bang on, exactly the same. And this Roadster especially is one of the most emotive cars you're ever going to drive. It's not perfect, but that's not the point. This is a car that is designed to make even the most arduous of journeys a hell of a lot more fun. So the Roadster, in a nutshell, it is absolutely Mini, and they've done a damn good job.